Charles is making his next move in streamlining the monarchy and reformulating it to his wishes. And this includes stripping Prince Andrew and Prince Harry of a pretty important role. Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we're going to be talking about kind of the breaking news from the Telegraph that King Charles is planning on stripping both Andrew and Harry of their roles as counselors of state. These are official positions that allow somebody within the royal family, particularly the 4 highest ranking members who are over the age of 21. And these have to be blood royal, so that means they actually have to be in the line of succession. And these members fulfill a very important role, but there's kind of 2 huge problems right now. I say only 2, because really there's only 2 issues in my humble opinion. Number 1 is Prince Harry, who no longer lives in the UK, and the other is Prince Andrew, who has caused a lot of strife and controversy to the royal family over the last couple of years, in addition to Harry. Princess Beatrice is also a counselor of state, but she's not a working member of the royal family at this point, though I think Charles should consider changing that. But I'll go into that in a bit. But if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany, and on this channel we will talk about everything related to royals, so that's news, gossip, fashion, jewelry, television shows, movies, and history. We shall do it all right here. So if you guys want to subscribe, that would be fantastic. And like I said, this breaking news about the counselors of state is very, very interesting. But before we go into that, I thought I would just touch on the vigils that we saw of the Queen's children and grandchildren, because they are both deeply, deeply moving. This tradition started in 1936 after the death of King George V. So this is the Queen's grandfather. And there actually is only one surviving picture. Sorry, I shouldn't even say picture. There's only a painting that survives depicting this. And this was done by an artist who, saw the event and decided to paint it, and Queen Mary purchased it. So this was King George's wife, the Queen's grandmother, who helped create one of the best tiara and jewelry collections in the whole world for the British monarchy. Go Team Mary, yes. So she purchased this painting, and then this tradition kind of continued. It didn't happen for King George the 6th, so that's the Queen's father, obviously, because he had 2 daughters. And so they decided not to do that, but this has changed. So the next was obviously the Queen Mother. She lied in state after her death, and her grandchildren, her 4 grandsons, so this is Prince Charles at that point, now King Charles, Prince Andrew, Prince Edward, and also Viscount Lenny, or now Lord Snowdon. They all stood vigil over their grandmother. And then it's obviously extended now to Queen Elizabeth II. And we've had, 2 huge things. The first is that we've had our first woman participate in the vigil. I saw somebody online say, Princess Anne was the first woman to do it in 1,000 years. And when I looked up the history, I was like, no. This is just not even a 100-year-old tradition, but it's still awesome that Anne got to participate. And now we have also the vigil of the grandchildren. And this, I think, is a very, very sweet, sweet gesture. I love that they did it. And I love that it was a way for them to honor their grandmother. So go ahead and take a watch here first of the grandchildren's vigil. Isn't that sweet? I just love how silent it is, and then the pounding to change guard, I think, is just so fascinating how it kind of reverberates in the room. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Queen's children doing it as well. Yes, guys. So I just love, again, that continuity, that expression of history, and just the love that they're showing their grandmother, especially for the grandchildren. I think obviously it was kind of, you could tell that Zara Phillips and Peter Phillips and Beatrice and Eugenie and, Lady Louise and Viscount Severin were all just, they're not military members like Harry and William. And so they haven't been to a military training camp. And you could tell they weren't quite sure of the military march, and they hadn't participated in marching band either. That was the only time I marched, and I hated every second of it pretty much. I'm not a marching band girl. I love drum lines, but not a marching band girl. Anyways, I thought they just looked, utterly regal, solemn, just so great. And especially impressive is Viscount Severin, who's only 15. So and he's mostly shied away from the spotlight. We don't see him this much. So this was a really big deal. Imagine being 15. And obviously there were a lot of comparisons to actually him and Prince William, when Prince William stood behind his mother's coffin while they were walking to Westminster Abbey. So I just thought it was kind of awesome to see, especially these older cousins come around their younger cousins in this situation, because the Queen, there's kind of a difference, because obviously King Charles and Princess Anne were born actually 10 years before Andrew and Edward. So there's quite a gap. And so Her Majesty was actually able to spend more time with some of her younger grandchildren because she wasn't traveling quite as much. But you could tell that, there's just a special bond between grandparents and their grandchildren. So this was a really sweet way that they could honor them. It was just so lovely that they could go ahead and do that. Now, obviously, there was a lot of controversy about Andrew and Harry both wearing military uniforms, especially Harry. I don't think in the slightest that this Vigil was just created for the sole purpose of giving Harry an opportunity to wear his military uniform. And I think if Andrew was able to wear his, that Harry should be able to wear his. I just think that's fair play, because Andrew was able to wear his, Harry too, and so to me, that's just fair play. I know some people have very strong feelings about it. That's just my opinion. I think you can't, somebody in the same situation, you can tell one they can do it and the other one they can't do it. That's just generally not a great way to go about things. But when it comes to Andrew and Harry, this is not just the other controversy they're dealing with. There's a lot of issues with both of them. Prince Andrew obviously did that disastrous, I believe it was Nightline interview in the UK, where he was trying to defend himself against allegations with Jeffrey Epstein, and it went really badly, and he just looked terrible. And so basically he was forced to resign from royal life, and I don't know how he is supporting himself now. It was probably a lot from his mother, so he could inherit quite a bit from his mother, and obviously he still has his home royal lodge to live in, but he, has basically been banished from royal life. I think he wants to come back. I don't think really Andrew and Charles are not that close, so I don't really see a avenue back for him. And so this is really kind of much easier for Charles than the next one will be. And that's Harry, removing Harry as a counselor of state. Again, like I said, these are very important positions. So I guess before I should go on, I should read you kind of a descriptor of what a Counselor of State is and why it's necessary to go ahead and strip both Andrew and Harry of these roles. By law, Counselors of State include the sovereign's spouse and the next 4 people in the line of succession who are over the age of 21. Counselors of State are authorized to carry out most of the official duties of the sovereign, for example, attending Privy Council meetings, signing routine documents, and receiving the credentials of new ambassadors to the United Kingdom. However, there are a number of core constitutional functions that may not be delegated. Commonwealth matters, the dissolving of Parliament, except on, it says Her Majesty, but obviously they haven't updated it, so it would be His Majesty's express instruction. The creation of peers, appointing a Prime Minister. The position of Counselor of State was provided for in 1937 under the terms of the Regency Act. Prior to 1937, Regency Acts were drafted and passed only in necessity. As such, there had been 9 separate Regency Acts to cover various eventualities since 1728. Shortly after George VI came to the throne in 1936, a new Regency Act was passed, which provided rule for all future reigns. It was at this time that the new office of Counselor of State was created to cover short-term absences where a regency would be unnecessary. And so the current Counselor of States are Camilla, because whoever the consort is 1, but then there's 4 other slots. So that'd be the Prince of Wales, Prince Harry the Duke of Sussex, Prince Andrew the Duke of York, and Princess Beatrice of York, because they are the highest in line of succession over the age of 21. Charles wants to change this. And obviously we already went over kind of what was the issue with Andrew, but with Harry, I think there's even bigger implications for Harry. Number 1 is Harry no longer lives in the United Kingdom. So in the event that Charles needed him, he can't really attend to anything. He can't help because he's away trying to make a buck. That is what he's doing. So I completely understand why Charles needs to amend that. Not to mention the fact that if, for example, Harry was to do an official function as regent, the challenge is that Harry is only after his own financial gain now. Ergo, he may make decisions while he's sitting in that regency seat that might have dire implications for the United Kingdom or dire implications for the monarchy itself. Ergo, he can't do it because he can't be trusted to do something of that level of importance anymore. And not to mention the fact, again, he may say something, do something that really only benefits him and Meghan and not the broader country, the broader community, because he only has his own self-interest in mind. So that doesn't work. You also had this situation that Harry is still very much at this point, him and Meghan are loose cannons. Right now they're behaving, but we just don't know what they're going to do here in the future. They could, continue to be exemplary kind of pseudo royals for the moment, or, they could just go home and Meghan could be on, up with Oprah Winfrey the next day, trashing the monarchy and how they didn't include her in everything and invited her to a diplomatic reception she should have never been invited to in the first place. So I think it's kind of obvious the monarchy has a lot to do in this situation, and Charles really needs to clean house because he can't have Andrew and Harry doing this. They are loose cannons. You can't trust. Well, I should amend this and say I think Andrew would be okay, honestly. He has at least reverence for the monarchy. Harry doesn't anymore. It's clear he doesn't. And so this role is completely inappropriate for him, especially because Meghan is whispering in his ear. And she, again, is a dangerous element that cannot be trusted. So I actually don't mind Beatrice being a Counselor of State because I think this is a problem that Charles is going to run into, because let's say he amends a Counselor of State. So who are the 2 obvious options? Anne and Edward. Who are the other working members of the royal family? Well, who are blood members in the line of succession? Well, no one. Not right now. Because Charles has decided to slim down the monarchy, which I completely get. I think it does need to be done. All the other royals are doing it. However, the British are kind of unique in that they have these Commonwealth attachments. So they'll have kind of grander trips than other nations because Charles is head of state of several countries. And that's just not something that happens in Denmark and the Netherlands, Sweden, Norway. They don't have those additional responsibilities. And so I think very quickly Charles will realize he needs more help than he has. So he has currently right now the Prince and Princess of Wales, the Earl and Countess of Wessex, and Princess Anne the Princess Royal. The challenge is Princess Anne is 72, I believe, 73, 72. she's getting up there in age as well, so she'll not be able to travel quite as much. And so that'll put a huge burden on the Wessexes and the Waleses, I think. I almost said Cambridges. It'll put a huge burden on them, I think, that perhaps, you know, it would be helpful to have somebody like Beatrice around to kind of help offset that a bit. You know, at least have one other working member who's a blood royal. Obviously, they can amend it to make Catherine a Counselor of State. I think that would be totally fine, because Counselors of State, for example, so when the Queen was ill and couldn't open Parliament, William and Charles had to step in for her, because that was part of the thing too, is that it can't be just one person stepping in usually. If it's big functions, it has to be two. And so that, you know, creates a real problem, because you go through people pretty quickly. And again, Princess Anne is getting up there. Prince Edward, he is youngest, obviously, of Her Majesty's children. I believe, if I remember right, in the article I read, he's 56 now. So, or no, 56, 58, something to that effect. So he's still, you know, young-ish, but I think the monarchy really needs some new blood. And Harry and Meghan were going to play very prominent roles in Charles's reign. Without them, I think Charles really needs to consider elevating Beatrice, or seeing if she would be willing to be elevated, because I think he is going to need the extra hands. He's in his 70s, Anne is in her 70s. William and Catherine are in their 40s now, and, you know, Sophie and Edwards are in their 50s, you know, approaching 60. And Charles really needs some kind of younger blood there. And obviously, I do agree that Harry and Meghan had, for a period of time, had a broader appeal. Especially, you know, because Meghan is a woman of mixed race. Obviously, that's become very important in our culture. I think she did have a real appeal to, you know, people of color within the UK and kind of that multiculturalism. I completely get that, but she's not there anymore. And Edo is Italian. That kind of counts. He's like an Italian count, so, you know, that works, right? No, I know that doesn't work, but I think there's a position for Beatrice in there. But I think going this direction is clear that Charles is trying to clean house, and I think he needs to get rid of his most problematic elements, and that's what he's doing. He's getting rid of Andrew, who I think honestly at this point, as long as he can keep his mouth shut, which he's done pretty well since, you know, he's been kicked out, I think he's okay. You know, obviously I don't think they can pull him out very much, because I think people forget he wasn't actually convicted of anything. He just settled because he didn't want the process of going through a trial. And I do actually kind of feel for him, because, you know, it's a he said, she said. Without a smoking gun, it's, you know, circumstantial. So maybe the circumstantial evidence is fantastic, and I just don't know that. Could totally be the case. But I also think too, you know, he was kind of forced into doing this. He had to do this. There was just no other option, because he couldn't drag his brother and his mother through the mud, because this would be a deeply distressing trial. I think he was forced to, he wasn't able to actually have his day in court, yet he's been vilified. Now granted, he could do everything he's accused of, not denying that in the slightest. However, he has not been convicted of anything. Ergo, in the eyes of the law, he is considered innocent. Harry, I think, is a deeper problem, because him and Meghan, again, they have no issue using their influence that was given to them by the crown to advocate for certain political leaders, especially in the United States. So they are elements that Charles needs to cut loose. And, you know, we heard about that in his speech, that he said, okay, I wish Harry and Meghan the best. They have my love. Now go away. That was basically what he said. And there was an interesting article in the Times too, kind of detailing how Harry and William are kind of at this impasse where they're kind of sort of polite to each other, but there's been no inroads really. And I thought it was interesting that the Times kind of quoted a couple of friends of Harry's that were like, yeah, that Harry is so happy with his life in California, which I find complete BS. I may do an article, or sorry, a video about that, because I thought that article, some of its insights were rather interesting. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think of this changing of the counselor's estate. Is it a good thing to do? Is it the correct thing to do? And is Charles really trying to kind of establish his reign in a really, really strong way? Let me know your thoughts down below. I would love to hear them. And as always, thank you so much for watching and subscribing. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and feel free to hit that like button as well. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again so soon. Bye.